been here for about 8 years. I started here as an intern with the livestock. And I actually came here after working in invasive plant management straight out of college. I started out mapping invasive plants, mapping weeds, mapping for habitat restoration. I went into a lot of, I went into another project where I was mapping for slender false brome, trying to eradicate it from a watershed. And after a couple seasons of mapping for invasive plant management, I just got burnt out a little bit. It was a lot of mapping and then spraying and then mapping again. And I wasn't really seeing, I started to go out into this landscape and be like, oh wow, this is, everything I see out here is a weed now. And so I started on a local ranch or a local farm where we were using animals to manage our weeds rather than spraying. And through that farm, I started an I learned about the internship here. I got the internship here and I learned that you can manage landscapes using a variety of different tools that I had not been introduced to, such as livestock grazing, and now we're working on adding fire to the landscape. And so it's just been really interesting adding a bunch of different tools to our tool belt in terms of managing these landscapes. I grew up about 15 minutes from here, so these landscapes are very near and dear to my heart. And so what we do here at the ranch is I know you've got a little introduction through Annie, but our primary tool that we started with was livestock grazing. When we decided to transition to holistic plant grazing management, or using livestock to regenerate the landscape rather than just the standard model of set stock, like grazing them year round, Kat, the owner, had the foresight to bring on Point Blue Conservation Science, who originally started out as Point Reyes Bird Observatory. They are very focused on birds as indicator species. So in order to have healthy bird populations, you have to have healthy insect populations, which means you have to have healthy grass populations. And so they're a great indicator of the whole food web. And Point Blue had really started getting into working lands and trying to understand how working lands, private lands, not just public lands, play such an important role in conserving biodiversity. So Point Blue came on in 2010. We've been studying since 2014. We've been part of this rangeland monitoring network, which started here at the ranch and now is on over 100 ranches statewide. They take data in like 28 counties. They take soil data, vegetation data, and bird data all layered on the same points. So they get a really holistic view of ecological function on this really wide data set that's across the state, all on working lands. And the power of this is it allows us to ask questions, what is the state of carbon across California on working lands? How is carbon shifting, through drought conditions? How are vegetation communities changing? How are bird communities changing as, in the face of climate change? And so we have this robust set of data that then we're also able to do a little bit of experimental layering or control on it. And so we have 40 points on this ranch where we take data and we're able to layer different management techniques, different management tools on top to see how their effectiveness and how they're impacting our overall goals of the ranch. Some of our goals that we've set through the assistance of Point Blue and their data. We hope to increase soil carbon across the ranch. We just set a new goal of increasing soil carbon by 0.25% across all the points on the ranch. We hope to increase perennial grasses. We have seen an increase in perennial grasses over the past 10 years that we've been monitoring, and we of course hope to extend them more. We have some water quality goals that we've set, keeping them in line with some of the water quality standards in this area. We hope to reduce compaction or increase fluffiness in our soil. And so all these goals, we're able to, one, check how we're doing through all the data that Point Blue gives us, but then we're also able to trial on all these different points, different tools to see if we can get there faster. For example, we have some points across this ranch that we've put compost on, and we're able to track kind of their how they've changed over time in soil carbon and plant community. We just recently purchased in goats because we started noticing a shrub encroachment problem. And so we've bought in a herd of 75 goats, which we're growing, to try to better utilize brush and scrub, turn it into protein, and then also maintain a diverse coastal prairie community. We also have, let's see, so goats. We also introduced fire a couple of years ago, and so we have some pretty intensive monitoring on some of our prescribed burns, seeing how that's affecting our landscape and if it's helping reach our goals of maintaining coastal prairie and reducing the risk of catastrophic wildfire. And we're also layering on a couple different techniques such as bale grazing and swath grazing, which are more agricultural techniques rather than like landscape conservation techniques. And so we are doing some experimental research on those practices to see not only how they help us on the production side of the ranch, but also if they're helping us reach our goals on the ecological side. So in terms of bale grazing is a tool where you take big 1,000-pound bales of hay and we feed them during our lowest nutritional state about October, November, where the grasses, all the annual grasses have kind of died, super dry. We haven't had rain for 5 months, and so it's great for keeping our animals in condition. And we've also found that it's a really good way to introduce a lot of soil organic matter to the soil, because we allow the cows to come in. They get 10 bales. They eat 70% of it, 30% of it. They kind of smush around into the soil. They do a lot of intensive urinating, and there's a lot of manure. And so you end up with this, it's not compost, but it's it's full of microbes, it's full of carbon, full of nitrogen from the hay itself. And we've seen that we get great growth responses. So it's been a really interesting tool that we've used on areas on ridges where we have a lot of bare soil, or on slopes where we have some erosion or some rills. We'll set up these bales or set up these trials to kind of allow for some water control or erosion control. It allows for a lot of cover. And so currently we're in the middle of a study trying to see how that affects the carbon, how it affects our native plants, and how it affects our soil compaction. So those are just a couple of science projects that we're working on right here at the ranch. And during our walk, I'll be walking with you guys today, so during our walk we'll be pointing out some of the science that we're doing along with the kind of production-based agriculture and kind of how we meld the both of them. So, yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
So, is Point Blue, are they managing your GIS database for the ranch, or do you guys do that?
That's a great question. Point Blue has in the past managed our GIS. Most of our data, like if you look at our website, we have our interactive maps, and Point Blue has done all that. I do a little bit of our GIS mapping myself. I was a geography major at San Francisco State, but with more of a focus, geography double major, so more of a focus on natural resource management. So Point Blue does a lot of that. They're like definitely our heavy hitters, and then I do some of the like on the ranch, little bitty like roads maps, water points, and stuff like that.
Are you using drones for monitoring at all?
We have used drones. We do have a drone that we do use sometimes. We've measured for measuring NDVI, and then also just aerial photographs. It's helpful for the storytelling. It's been super helpful for the storytelling of our like bale grazing and of our fires, where our prescribed burns, where you really get that like kind of wide aspect.
So you have a drone with a multispectral sensor on it then?
We do. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's up and running. I don't know if the NDVI we had someone here that was really into NDVI for a while, and so we were working with them, and then with Santa Rosa Junior College. They had a project out here where they were kind of helping us collect that NDVI data.
What does that stand for?
NDVI, Normalized Difference
Yep.
Vegetation Index.
There we go.
Can you say that one more time?
Normalized Difference Vegetation Index. It's used for looking at the health of the vegetation, and it's one of the techniques that you can use. Like with the drone, one of the drones that we have at school, we have a multispectral sensor. That's what we were doing at the orchard.
It's helped us. We kind of look at the NDVI data. We're really interested in increasing length of growing season. So because we're such an annual grass-based area, we basically all the soil health rules are you want to keep living roots in the ground, right? You want soil coverage. You want photosynthesis as long as possible, because as long as plants are green, they're photosynthesizing, they're pumping carbon down into the soil, they're feeding the microbes, which is in turn, creating the glue that helps keep your soil together, and it helps keep your soil structured, but also allows for pore space, so you have better water infiltration and water holding capacity. So the root of everything we do is trying to keep things green as possible. And so the NDVI has helped us see, we were really tracking it to see if we can increase photosynthesis. That was kind of the measurement that we were using it for. Yeah.
You mentioned prescribed burns. Do you guys do your own, or do you have San Mateo Fire do it?
Yeah, we partner with CAL FIRE.
CAL FIRE.
They hold kind of the liability. There are some prescribed burn associations north and south of us, but we don't really have one that quite services this area. So in this county, prescribed burns are.
Yeah, because the fire station's just down there.
Yeah, so CAL
I saw it
FIRE.
on the way here.
Yep.
so I'm like,
Yep, CAL FIRE's our people. We have a 10-year management plan with them.